Hi, and thanks for logging on to the Daily DVAR Halacha. And here's a brand new halacha for you, and it's for Tuesday, the 16th day of June. Here we go. So we were, one day ago, we were in the middle of laws about respecting parents, and one of them was that we don't refer to parents by their name. That's just considered very modern, and it's not respectful by the Torah value type of way of life. But here's, you better not tune out in the middle because you'll get the wrong impression. But there are poskim who say, not all, but there are poskim who say that if your father's name is, let's say, Shimon, then when you refer even to some other person and you call a friend of yours and you say, hey, Shimon, come here, there are those who say that you should not refer to your friend Shimon by the name Shimon because that's your father's name. And just to be saying Shimon randomly every time you talk to your friend is using your father's name lightly. And the poskim who say this say that the best thing to do is to refer to your friend Shimon by a bit of a change from the way your father's name is said. Like if your father's name is Shimon, when you talk to your friend, just call him Shimi or something like that. The Rambam says this, the Shulchan Aruch says this, and some poskim finalize it this way. I knew a Rebbe who had a certain name. I forget what the name was, but his father, let's say his father's name was David. So every time he had a student that was named David, he would do stuff to not call that kid exactly by his name David. It actually upset some of the parents, but he was following this Rambam and Shulchan Aruch. Svardim, by the way, who often name after a living person, should be careful to call the younger person by some, nickname that's not exactly the same name as the living person, because if it's exactly the same and it's a parent, then they're going to be violating this halacha every time they call the little kid. But I hope you stayed tuned in all the way until now because there are a lot of poskim that allow all of this. The Taz, the Shach, Rav Moshe Feinstein, Rav Elyashiv, all of these rabbis allow it, and they say if your father's name is Shimon and your friend's name is Shimon, you can call your friend Shimon. So I've actually stated for you two differing opinions. You just like to educate you. You could talk to your rabbi about whether it's okay for you to do this. The Ben Ish Chai says, though, that you should be careful in your father's presence. If your father's in the room and his name's Shimon, and your friend's in the room and his name's Shimon, and just say, hey, Shimon, get me my shoes. You know how bad that sounds because it could sound like you're talking to your father that way. So the Ben Ish Chai says be careful if it is in your father's presence. What about parent-in-laws? Okay, so really we know through a series of chazals that you are expected to honor your parents-in-law, but you don't have to fear them the way you fear your parents. And some poskim say that we may be lenient on this law, and you could call your father-in-law Sam, just like his name is, because you don't really have a mitzvah to fear your father-in-law, you just have a mitzvah to respect him. But there are others who say that you should be kind of careful about this and basically try and treat it the same, and that's because it still possibly falls into the category of honor. And just like you're supposed to honor your parents, you're supposed to honor your parents-in-law, and therefore you shouldn't be calling your father-in-law Sam if his name's Sam. You can call him Abba, you can call him Dad, or whatever it is that the rest of the family calls him. That would be a little bit better. If a parent has an uncommon name, like let's say the mom's name is Genendel, okay? So there are poskim who say that now it ramps up to be a little bit more serious, because if there's some friend out there whose name is Genendel, then that name is so intrinsically specific to your mom almost, because she's one of the only people called that. So calling your friend who's Genendel by that same name could lead you into a bit of a dishonor of your mom, who's distinctly known as the only Genendel around. And some people ramp up the halacha in its strictness when it's that situation. They all say that when that parent has passed, if that parent has passed away, then you can be more lenient about it because you are not referring to the parent, you're referring to Genendel, your friend. But so if you know that your parent has an unusual name, you might want to have an extra talk with your rabbi about this, because then the halacha gets a little bit stricter because it sounds like you're referring to your actual parent because of the unusualness of the name. So now you're more educated on it, and you may want to speak to your rabbi about these laws. Thanks for logging on. Log on again tomorrow for more. Bye-bye.